Ahoy everybody and welcome! It is time for Nintendo Direct predictions. So, ahoy, I'm Toontress. If you don't know me, if you're here for a Nintendo Direct type and you just happened to click this video and look in and you want to see everyone's predictions, I am Toontress. I do a ton of Nintendo-focused stuff, and of course, that means we're covering this Nintendo Direct tomorrow. So, Nintendo just announced a Direct for June 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern. It is a 50-minute Direct, which is already pretty long, and then it is being followed by a 95-minute Nintendo Treehouse Live. So that is quite long. That's about an hour and a half, and then some of Treehouse Live, following already nearly an hour-long Nintendo Direct. So this is pretty beefy. It's comparable to the Switch 2 Direct that we had April of last year. And it's pretty comparable to the E3 Directs that we would get over the years, which is awesome. Only one day at Treehouse Live instead of, like 3, but that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But that means there's going to be some big things here. So, like last year, I would say like last time, but that was September of last year that I did my predictions like this. I am recording these predictions live in my official Discord server, which you can join if you become a channel member and support the channel, or subscribe over on Twitch. You get instant access to the Discord server, and I like to do my little predictions this way. It allows me to engage with you guys, my audience, and also have a discussion-style predictions video without really needing to script anything. It's quite nice. I enjoyed doing this last time, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. And then Nintendo decided there wasn't gonna be another Direct for, like, 10 months. So, it weirdly feels new again. But to start off, let me check what y'all are saying in a little side chat here. The music will be kept for the director's cut of the predictions. Yeah, and we just got the final lap of Rainbow Road, so that's quite good. Taylor Play says, you're definitely hoping Nintendo will have something Zelda, especially since the series is celebrating 40 years this year. Yes! So, that's actually a good place to start for this, before I even get into what we do know. We do know that this year is the 40th anniversary of Zelda. However, precedents can tell us Mario is kind of the only anniversary that Nintendo will go all out for. So, the September Direct, back in 2025, had a whole opening section, basically a Mario 40th Anniversary Direct segment, where it had everything related to Mario Anniversary, everything they were putting under the branding for that, much like their Mario 35th Anniversary Direct, which had like everything, including events and merchandising. I don't see them doing that for Zelda. Zelda 35th and even Zelda 30, if I remember correctly, they didn't really do much for them. They did do stuff. There was branding, but it was mostly like merch, concerts, like smaller events. They didn't have like a game with like a stamp on the box for the anniversary logo being thrown on it. So I don't think there's going to be a whole section for Zelda. I do think something Zelda will be here. We'll get to that. I'm gonna go in order here. Starting off with what we do know. There are 4 games left that we know about that Nintendo previously announced that have yet to come out that I'm pretty confident are all gonna show up here. First off, Star Fox. They just announced that a couple months ago. Out June 25th. There's probably gonna be a brand new trailer. Probably a big focus on its multiplayer mode in Treehouse Live. They're probably going to have a whole, like, 20 to 30 minute long segment flying around doing the dogfights in that. Maybe they'll also show off the face cam VTuber stuff that you can do with that, which is frankly still a bit strange to me. They're probably going to want to really show that off because that's out in less than 20 days. So this is kind of their last big chance to get a big push for that one. And I definitely see them doing that, probably pretty early in the show, and probably pretty early in Treehouse as well. Next is Rhythm Heaven Groove, which is coming out July 2nd, so we're less than a month out from that one as well. I don't expect anything too big for that one. I don't think it'll be in Treehouse Live. It's only had, like, 2 trailers. I think it's basically just going to be a reminder that that's coming out next month. Some new small trailers showing off some more of the minigames, because the only real update we've had on that was when they announced the release date on Nintendo Today a few months back. So, nothing too big, but definitely a presence of Rhythm Heaven Groove. You forgot about Rhythm Heaven? I mean, it is a small series, but they are kind of making it a big deal. Not the Switch 1 game. That is worth noting, too. They did say this Direct will have Switch 1 and Switch 2 games. I think Rhythm Heaven is probably still one of the last Switch 1 games. So, in terms of, like, that hasn't come out yet. So I feel like that's kind of the main reason why that's in there. I'm sure some third parties or indies that show up in here might also be for Switch 1, but I think Rhythm Heaven is kind of the main reason. The other reason could be if they end up doing DLC or updates for Tomodachi Life featured in here. It would be a good time. I didn't even write that down. That just came to mind now. It would be neat to see something new for Tomodachi Life that is also a Switch 1 game, so that would fit alongside Rhythm Heaven as like a little Switch 1 section early in the show. But I don't know if there's gonna be much more Switch 1 than that. Next on what we know, I have Splatoon Raiders. That's out July 23rd. There's probably going to be a brand new trailer, and they're probably going to showcase a full level of that game in co-op during the Treehouse Live. Maybe even showing off the amiibo as well. They really like, during Treehouse Lives, they'll have like a table near them, and they'll just be like, look guys, there's an amiibo for this game. We're not going to scan it, but look, ooh, you can see how big it is. You can see the detail on it. It's really cool. You should go pick it up. That's what they like to do for when there's like new amiibo coming out and they have a Treehouse Live around that time. So they're probably going to do that. And if I remember correctly, the Splatoon Raiders amiibo have that funny thing where their bases are designed to fit together. So the three of them, you can kind of push them together and it'll look like one complete figure, based on like the floor matching up. So they'll probably do that, and they'll do a little like woo about it. And that's probably it for Splatoon Raiders. A new trailer, co-op showcase at Treehouse Live, and a little look at the amiibo. Because I think that's the last new amiibo that we know about, other than the Minoru amiibo. The Minoru Construct amiibo for Tears of the Kingdom, which they might show off at the same time, just when talking about amiibo. Maybe some of the other Kirby Air Riders ones as well. But if they can't fit it in naturally, they probably won't talk about it at all. The last game that we know about that's definitely going to show up here is Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. That was announced last Direct in September, and we haven't heard anything about it since, and it was dated for 2026 and only 2026. So we're definitely going to get a new trailer. It's definitely going to have a release date, or at least a release window. But given that it's already June, we're about halfway through the year. If they don't date it at this point, it's a little silly. I feel like that's what's next after Splatoon Raiders. So I'm gonna predict not only will Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave show up here, it's gonna get dated for somewhere in mid to late August. Which would suck for people in Europe trying to go to Gamescom, because Gamescom is at like the tail end of August, and I don't know if they want to release Fire Emblem around that. Maybe the week before Gamescom? I don't know. So, but like mid to late August is what I would expect for Fire Emblem. I don't think it would push into September. I think September is too busy for game releases in general, as we've seen through this whole Summer Game Fest season. There's a lot of games, and a lot of big games coming out in September. I don't think Nintendo's going to tread on that too much, with the exception of one thing. I think Nintendo's going to have one thing in September. And that takes us to rumors. The top of the list for rumors. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. I fully believe this thing is happening. There's a lot of credibility behind the people that have talked about it, a lot of good track records. It's been said by so many people. Yeah, it's probably happening. It's probably getting a full reveal here. I think we'll even see a little bit more of it in the Treehouse. It's probably near the end of the Direct, if not outright the one last thing that they have at the end. I don't see this showing up like anywhere in the middle, personally. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it opens the Direct. I don't know. But it feels like something that they would have within the last 10 minutes as the last thing or one of the last things. And I think that's coming out in September. I think that's coming out in September. Not because of the same reason everybody else is putting their games in September of, oh my god, GTA is coming out in November, we can't put anything out in November. A lot of Zelda games have come out in September. Link's Awakening's remake, Echoes of Wisdom, even as far back as like Wind Waker HD originally. Like, September is actually a fairly common release month for Zelda. So I feel like that's where we're going to see it. Maybe it is November. Maybe Nintendo feels that they're not afraid of GTA and they'll release it then anyway. And sure. But I could see it being September because there is a precedence for Zelda games in September. So that feels likely to me. We'll see what happens. They may see that everything else is releasing in September. A whole bunch of games from various competitors, and they may say, push that to October, maybe even November. We'll take the hit if it comes out around GTA. They may do that. So, while I'm confident in September, the last week has shown so much is coming out in September. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a bit later. I think it's definitely out before end of the year, though. No shot there. Like, no shot is being delayed into 2027. Ocarina of Time, this year, 100%. Continuing in rumors, and in the spirit of remakes, we have, of course, Star Fox out this month, which is a remake of Star Fox 64. We have the rumor of Ocarina of Time remake, which I'm pretty confident is happening. There have also been rumblings of a Super Metroid remake, also potentially releasing by end of the year. Probably by this team that did Metroid Dread, and I believe they also did Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. So that wouldn't surprise me too much. We don't know what Mercury Steam's been up to since Dread, like 5 years ago. So Super Metroid makes sense, and it's also like one of the most popular Metroid games. So I could pretty easily see that being real and see that showing up in here as well. Having a 2D Metroid about a year after Metroid Prime 4, I think is pretty good. It shows you're trying to do more with both sides of Metroid and now as well. Worth noting, worth noting, I should have said this earlier, I think all of these are for Switch 2 exclusive. I think Ocarina of Time remake, Switch 2 exclusive, Super Metroid remake, Switch 2 exclusive. Yeah. Nikki Maker in chat, yeah, that does make a lot of remakes this year. I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. Though I can see people spinning it as a bad thing. Oh, Nintendo's out of ideas. All they have are remakes and remasters. Where's the new games, Nintendo? Even though these remakes might as well be new games, to be honest, with the way they're being handled. So there isn't really a problem with them. People are just being problematic about that. I think, realistically, there's nothing wrong with having a bunch of remakes this year. Especially if it means it's going to be barely any remakes next year. It's just about when they end up trying to release things, and if it hits upon a bunch of different IPs, I think that's okay. We got a lot of new games last year, it's fine. Yeah, true. I have one more from rumors. Simpson says they're bringing them to a new they're bringing these games to a new audience, and if new games are planned, it helps explain their original games. Yes, exactly. I think it's also good to get these remakes out sooner, even if it makes a bunch of them come out in close proximity to each other. I think that's okay, because it means these IPs are ready for new entries, perhaps following those remakes within the next few years. It primes them for that kind of attention. So that I think that's a good thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing. Next up, the last rumor I have on here only popped up, I think, yesterday. This popped up. Wario Land? suddenly people were talking about the return of Wario Land and that there's a new Wario game coming. Listen, if we have a new Wario game and it's not WarioWare, yes, please. I love Wario World, one of my favorite GameCube games. Fantastic game. I have played a lot of the Wario Land games. I have not played Shake It, though, on Wii. I've just not had a chance to. I would love to see a new Wario that isn't just WarioWare, though. I think WarioWare is kind of the only side of that character Nintendo likes to focus on, and they need to do a little bit more than that, to be honest. I don't think it would be a remake. I think it would be a brand new game, and that's huge. Even though they could easily get away with like a Switch version of Wario Land Shake It with the Joy-Cons, they absolutely can get away with that. And I wouldn't be upset if they did that. But I hope it's a new game, and I think it's a new game. I think that would be very exciting. And given how far out it's been, it wouldn't surprise me if... I remember when... I want to say it was around like the 2020s, like early 2020. There were rumors that WayForward was working on a Wario game, and then it turned out to not be true. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the kickstart to this idea of... So I think WayForward might be working on it, if real. If real. We'll see. But we'll see what happens there. Okay. Before I run into more predictions from chat and, of course, big hopes and more, let me really quickly run through my little list here of third parties. And then I'm going to really go back in and engage with y'all in chat a bit more. Third parties, a direct this long, there's going to be a lot of them. There's going to be big ones. Probably things that we just saw in various other showcases, the Xbox Showcase, the Sony State of Play, Summer Games Fest. Various titles from there, whether they were confirmed for Switch 2 before or not, might show up here as a, look, this is coming to Switch 2 as well. And that'll be good, that'll be fine, that'll be nice. Sonic Frontiers Switch 2 edition has had like several leaks related to it on storefronts. I think that's probably happening. It'll probably show up here, and it'll probably be something that makes people go, okay. And then they move on. Mega Man 12? I forget the exact name of it. Dual something. Dual Overdrive? The new Mega Man. Whatever. The new Mega Man, I do think, might get a new trailer here. We only had that teaser for it back at the Game Awards. Dual Override. You just call it 12. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I do think the new Mega Man is going to show up here. A nice new look at it. That'll be nice. And then ports from more third parties. Back in April, it was announced that Final Fantasy XIV is coming to the Switch 2 and should be out by end of summer, I believe. So there's probably going to be a segment on that here. To the point where I actually wouldn't be surprised if they even dabble with it at Treehouse, just showing how it runs and what the connectivity between 4 players would be like. I would love to see Final Fantasy XIV show up here. It feels like the right time if it's supposed to be out by end of August, but and then ports for Metaphor ReFantazio, because that was a Game of the Year contender a couple years back, and I think Nintendo wants them to bring it to Switch. And Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Game of the Year of 2025. I would be shocked if that wasn't coming to Switch anytime soon. Well, Switch 2 specifically for these. I have to imagine these things take time, though, of course. So this would be a great time for them to announce them, but they may not even be like coming out anytime soon. It might be showcasing both of these and they're like, hey, they're in development. And that's it. Probably a lot of other third parties doing that, but those are the ones that I felt like specifically spotlighting. Aiden says, okay, you're about to clock out, so some predictions from you. Something small from Pokemon. Small, since presents potentially into July. And Mario Kart World DLC. And while you don't see it, a tease for the next 3D Mario. Likewise, Taylor Plays said, could we get a tease for the new 3D Mario or new 3D Zelda? Zelda, I don't think so, because I think they want to keep the attention on Ocarina of Time's remake, because that might as well be a brand new game. Mario, it's possible. The problem is, I don't think Mario's coming until next year. Probably for the holidays next year, or a little bit before the holidays, because Pokemon's probably for the holidays next year. So I kind of feel like they might want to wait on Mario, because I don't know if they can get away with sitting on Mario for like a year, right? Like, assuming Mario I could see showing up in a September Direct, and then we get more info next summer, and then it comes out around the fall. I don't know. It's weird. Brand new 3D Zelda, I just don't see happening right now. I think Ocarina of Time's a focus. Maybe like another year or two before they tease that one. Mario's in a weird spot where I think they should tease it, but I don't know if they will. It would be a great time for them to tease it, but they might want to wait until it's closer, so it's not like a whole year. Simpson says, Mario you can see being shown closer to release, but you can see Zelda as they used to give small updates on the main game during Tears of the Kingdom development. That's true. That's true. Zelda's one of the very few series Nintendo can get away with announcing very far out. Little CG trailer, The Legend of Zelda is now in development, and then we don't hear about it for a year, and then we don't hear about it for another year. That's definitely possible. However, I don't think that'll happen at the same presentation where they reveal Ocarina of Time Remake. If Ocarina of Time Remake is like Star Fox 64 at least, where it's like practically might as well be a brand new game, and not just a remaster of Ocarina of Time 3D. If it's just like a fresh coat of paint of Ocarina of Time 3D, but now it's for Switch, yeah, totally. They would tease 3D Zelda. If Ocarina of Time is practically a brand new game, that's the only Zelda that'll be there. So a lot hinges on that, I think. Mario Kart DLC, since I know everyone's mentioned it, everyone's expecting me to bring it up. That is literally the top of my list for hopes and pipe dreams here. Back in financials, Nintendo said they still considered it a big major title for the system. So hopefully it's time to see DLC for the game. I really, really hope so. It would be a great time since the game just had its first anniversary. I don't know if it'd be paid DLC or free DLC. Could do more NPC drivers, finally give more outfits with DK and Pauline, add in more DK characters like everybody's been asking about for the past year. Maybe at least a new cup worth of new courses and the routes between them, but the next anniversary from Mario Kart, the 35th anniversary from Mario Kart, is in 2027. I can kind of see them waiting and holding Mario Kart World DLC until early 2027, and then it releases all throughout the year to celebrate the anniversary. Do I like that? No, not at all. Can I see it happening? Yes. Yes, I can. Nikki says you can see free DLC this year and big paid DLC next year. That is where I think it's going to go. I think, because we've gotten some free updates to that game over the past year. We got like a new battle mode added a few months back, which honestly was kind of strange. They added teams to Knockout Tour, and these are like drip feeding like content updates. I think a big content update is coming soon. Something free. Probably, maybe by end of the summer, so maybe it actually shows up here in the Direct. And then paid DLCs next year. That's how I see it going. Mario Kart World is something I feel like they're going to slowly support throughout the Switch 2 lifecycle with new content every year or two. I don't know how much I like that, but Simpson says, didn't they give updates for Tears of the Kingdom when other games got announced? It's like a small last thing. Kind of. When, like, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity was announced, and Skyward Sword HD were announced, they were like, oh, yes, like, the sequel to Breath of the Wild development is still progressing smoothly. And that was kind of, like, all they said. Taylor Play says, Mario Kart World DLC exclusive to NSO expansion. I don't think they would make it exclusive, but they might do the same thing they did with the Booster Quest Pass, where if you own the NSO expansion pass, you get it for free. They might do that again. I do think that is a... I do think that is a monetization style for DLC that they like, that entices players. It's kind of hard to say for... You don't think anything DLC-wise is exclusive but included? Yeah, I don't think any of it's exclusive. It's more like if you have NSO in the expansion pass, you get access to them. So I see them doing that, because I don't believe they have anything like that for the Switch 2 yet. I don't think they have anything like that for the Switch 2 yet. So that would be a good first one to do, because I believe the Booster Course Pass was one of the first ones they did that for. Wasn't it? No, it couldn't have been. Didn't they do, like, Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, like, way earlier? Free with NSO expansion pass? Yeah, okay, no. Animal Crossing was the first. Yes, that's right. Okay, yeah, okay. That's right. Yes, that's right, yeah, because it was Happy Home Paradise. And then the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion got added into that. And the Booster Course Pass from Mario Kart Deluxe, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. I do think they could include it with expansion pass, but yeah. I did see Nikki in chat said they said I would be interested in a new Mario Strikers with the World Cup starting soon. It would even take a remake or remaster of Strikers Charged. Okay. I like the idea because time-wise it makes sense. It wouldn't be bad to do. We have Mario Strikers, Super Mario Strikers on GameCube NSO already. We have Mario Strikers Battle League, which flopped a few years ago. Strikers Charged getting brought over would be quite nice. But, just to strike fear into the heart of man, what if there was a Switch 2 edition of Mario Strikers Battle League? Can you do that? Like, can you salvage that game with the Switch 2 edition? Because I feel like that would come pretty close to just a remake or a remaster at that point in terms of how much you would be changing to that game. So I don't know. The reason why I put that terror into the world, that terrible idea into the world, is because I don't feel like there would be a port of or a remake of Mario Strikers Charged so soon after Strikers 1 was put on NSO a year ago, and only a few years after Battle League. I feel like more with Battle League, bringing that back would be more likely. And I don't know if... I mean, to be honest, I don't think it would do well, no. But I don't know how unlikely that is. I do confess, I feel any other Mario Sport game showing up here, when we just had Mario Tennis Fever in February, I'm hesitant to believe they would have 2 sport game releases in the same year. But they've done Stranger, so it's not impossible, that's for sure. I do also want to point out, I think it was Simpson who mentioned earlier, would love to see Luigi's Mansion 4. Yes, I do believe Luigi's Mansion 4 exists. I think that's what Next Level Games has been working on since Battle League. Which is kind of why, like, if there was anything else at Mario Strikers, I think it would be a Switch 2 edition of Battle League, because I think that would be less work than porting a different game, or remaking a different game. And it could be something they could do relatively quick, to then get back to work on Luigi's Mansion 4. I feel confident Luigi's Mansion 4 is this year, but maybe not. Maybe it's next year. This year or next year. I feel like if it was this year, we would have heard about it already. But, I mean, we're about to hear about a bunch of games coming out the rest of this year that we don't know about. So, I think Luigi's Mansion 4 is a high possibility on that list, and boy do I hope so. I would love to see Luigi's Mansion 4. But I don't... I'm not at like 100% confidence, right? I'm at like a 75. It was something I was very, very confident in happening this year. But that was under the pretense of it would have gotten revealed in a February Direct. And we're in June. There was no February Direct. So, and that's going off of the fact that Luigi's Mansion 3? Luigi's Mansion 3 was revealed like a whole year out. And teased in a Smash trailer, of all things. So, like, I don't really think... I'm not 100% ready to lock in that it's happening yet, unfortunately. I think it exists. I just don't know if 2026 is the year for it. Nikki says Luigi's Mansion is a good October game, so I could see it. That's why I'm still at like a solid 75. But, I mean, if it's not this October, it's next October. That's the thing. I only see it launching in October. Nikki also says, Switch 2 editions seem to exist to convince new people to the Switch ecosystem that these are the best games in these series. So, for now. So, I don't know if a more expensive Battle League would be a good image. That's very true. That's very true. Again, I only put Switch 2 edition of Battle League into the world because I think that would be more likely than porting or remaking Charged. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Worth noting to those of you watching in the Discord chat here while I record this live. So obviously for viewers watching this on YouTube, this means nothing to you. If I run past a topic and you still have more to say on that topic, please feel free to still put that in the chat, and I will happily jump back to a specific topic and talk on that. I know I'm moving a little bit fast to make sure I hit upon everything, so by all means, don't feel discouraged from talking in the chat if I'm moving too fast for you. I can happily jump back to any topic we've already talked about. And that's why I'm not putting timestamps in this. So if you're watching on YouTube, sorry, there are no timestamps. Jumping topics way too much. We've talked about NSO a bit. While I give folks in the Discord chat time to type things out, I do want to say, GameCube NSO, there are still 2 titles that they announced April of 2025 that we know about that have not yet come out. Pokemon Coliseum and Super Mario Sunshine. Where are they? I have no idea. I don't know why they have waited. The GameCube drip feed was originally once a month, and then they really stalled it out already so quickly. So, I don't know. They're definitely still happening. They didn't cancel them, that's for sure. But the question here is, even though there's those 2 still remaining, do we see more GameCube NSO? Yes, obviously, there will be more GameCube NSO games beyond those 2 that exist, but do we see them announcing more? And I'll be honest, no. I don't see them announcing with a little trailer, more GameCube games are heading to the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo GameCube Classics app. I don't see them doing that, because they stopped doing that for the N64. After quite some time. They stopped doing the N64 one and the GBA one. They had like the original timeline, and then they kind of just started having them be a nice surprise, is really it. I'm not sure where it'll go, but there's definitely more GameCube games that'll happen after those. I think Wario World wasn't even one of the originally announced ones. So they'll definitely have more GameCube games. I just don't see them announcing them in a Direct anymore. But will there be more NSO in general? They did last September reveal the Virtual Boy for some reason. And I think that's all done now. I kind of hope they don't announce a new NSO platform yet. This is a hot take, because I see people begging for DS and Wii. I do not want those for at least another year or 2. Give GameCube time to breathe, please, because GameCube releases are now already competing with GBA and N64 for expansion pack monthly releases. I don't want them to add another one in all. And Virtual Boy, it's also competing Virtual Boy. I don't want them to add another one for GameCube to be competing with yet. I don't believe they have enough on the GameCube platform to justify someone only interested in GameCube games to upgrade to the NSO expansion pack. I don't think they have enough on there yet, to be honest. This is coming from someone with Wind Waker as their favorite game of all time, and it was on there from launch. The content of the games that are on there, massive. But I don't think there's enough variety on there yet. I think they really need to lock in, and for the rest of this year, at least, do more monthly GameCube titles. Don't even touch another new NSO platform for a while. You can drip feed in some more GBA and N64 in there at some point. Sure, fine. But I don't think it's time for another new platform yet. Doubt they'll do 2 platform launches in 1 year. Well, they did 2 platform launches in one fiscal year with GameCube and Virtual Boy. Those are both within the same fiscal year. Nikki says, you can see a video with more games to GameCube because it's barely been a year, while N64 already has a solid library and it's been 4 to 5 years since N64 was on NSO. Yeah, that's a good point. They might do one more of those before they stop. So maybe more GameCube NSO does show up here. Maybe. Game & Watch NSO? Okay, not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised that doesn't already exist. Could see, say, DS if that's for standard online. And calendar. Yeah, calendar year is fair. I just feel like keeping in mind the business fiscal year for Nintendo is also important for some of these releases. I don't know if I see DS being standard online. That feels like they would limit it to expansion pack for me. Maybe I'm wrong there. Just because GBA is limited. Moving from NSO a bit, Fire Serpent, hey bestie, in chat says, didn't have a ton in mind, but you do wonder, what do I think of the odds that Sega will show Jet Set Radio during this? Or do I think Nintendo may not even bother, should there be a plan for such? You know, when we were watching the Summer Games Fest, they mentioned Virtua Fighter, Crazy Taxi, and Jet Set Radio, yet they only showed Virtua Fighter. But then later, during the Xbox showcase, they showed Crazy Taxi, so that would just leave Jet Set Radio not shown. That's a great point, actually. And this might be it. Yeah, you know what? Under third parties, I do actually think Jet Set Radio has a decent chance of showing up here. Considering those 3 were announced at the same time, and we've now had a pretty good look at 2 of them, it makes sense to round that out with the 3rd one, with the only one remaining, and the only presentation left remaining from this time. Yeah, I could see that. I actually think there's a decent shot at that happening. I won't be terribly upset if it doesn't happen, but I could definitely see it. It would be a nice way to show these games coming to the Switch too as well. Yeah. I do think some of the Segas will probably some of the Sega games will probably show up, and Jet Set Radio getting its proper reveal in here. Yeah, why not? That could definitely happen. Let's see here through my list. Simpson says, do I think we'll see the Dustbloods? Yes, because they finally dated Elden Ring for, I believe it's in August. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition for the Switch 2 finally has a date after that thing got delayed and back to make it run better, and now it seems like it's running pretty well. I do think that means the Duskbloods is next, and I think that was supposed to come out this year. If it's not delayed, I could see that coming out in the fall at some point. And I believe that's a Switch 2 exclusive as well. Maybe timed exclusive, but that is exclusive to the Switch 2. So I could see the Dustbloods as like the major third-party partner with FromSoft showing up sometime here. Because it's been a while since we last saw anything about that. I think it was the April Switch 2 Direct when everything first got shown off. I don't know if we've seen anything about the Dustblood since. And, because that's multiplayer, that also might be something they show off during Treehouse Live. Mario Kart DLC would also be something for Treehouse Live. Ocarina of Time is probably getting a decent look in Treehouse Live. I think I mentioned that already. The last on my list of, like, a big hope or pipe dream is some sort of big, brand new game announcement. Not a remake or port, even though a remake or port would be very exciting. If it looks good, those could still be very exciting. Hence, like Ocarina of Time, for example. I want it to be something brand new or a new sequel to a game. Something that we've not had in a long time, or something that we never could have seen coming. Even if it's just like a CGI teaser trailer, that's fine. But getting something like that, and it's like, we don't get info for like a year, right? Like, this is not something that we're seeing again before the end of this year. Something big, I think, would be very exciting to have here, because they're raising the price of the Switch 2 in September. And I think that scares Nintendo a little. I don't think they're happy that they have to do that, and I think they need at least one big thing to have a promise for the future that prices are going to go up in the fall, but don't worry, there's more big games coming after the fall, after the price increase, so you should maybe get your Switch 2 in these few months before the price goes up, because we promise this thing's coming later. Animal Crossing? I think Animal Crossing could fit. If Ocarina of Time, for some reason, isn't here, 3D Zelda could fit, because they've done that kind of thing before. I don't think 3D Mario... Okay. What I'm proposing here is a CG-only trailer for something that we do not see again until next June. It won't be in a September Direct, it won't be in a February Direct, it won't be in a random drop on Nintendo Today. Whatever this big new thing is with the CG-only trailer, we won't be seeing again until June next year. It is effectively game title, now in development. That's it. There's not many Nintendo IPs that they can do that for confidently, I think. Especially after Metroid Prime 4's debacle with that. Zelda's one of the only ones they can do it with, because they keep doing it with it. But if we're getting Ocarina of Time remake, that's not happening here. Animal Crossing Simpson, I actually do think could fit that. I worry it's too soon to tease a new one right after... It's been about 6 months since the Switch 2 edition for New Horizons. I feel like they might still have legs on that one of wanting that one to sell. And I feel like telling people in 1 year, effectively telling people in 1 year we're going to announce Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing's now in development. I don't know how excited people would get for that. Might get more playing if that new one is coming. It could. The only other IP that Nintendo has that I think they could reasonably get away with CGI trailer that's 30 seconds long, title now in development, is Smash. I think that's the only one of those three. Again, Animal Crossing could pull it off. I could see it. Zelda, they've done it before, but I don't think they would at the same time as Ocarina. The only other IP they have that I think they could reasonably do that with is Smash. And yeah, Smash did do that before. Smash Wii U and 3DS were announced on at E3 on stage by Mr. Iwata, and that was when Sakurai learned that he was working on those games. And then we didn't see it for a year later. At least a year later. I think they could pull that off again. I don't necessarily want that. Don't get me wrong. It would be very exciting. Nikki says Smash would be a desperate last resort announcement unless it's releasing soon, but you don't expect it. No, that's the thing. I don't see us... Considering Sakurai just finished Kirby Air Riders. I don't see Smash showing up anywhere until next year at the earliest in terms of announcing. But under this pretense, if Nintendo is afraid with the console price increasing soon that they need to have some sort of big promise for later, if they had a trailer that was Mario running around and then the Smash logo appeared and then it said a new entry in the Super Smash Bros. Series is now in development exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2, directed by Masahiro Sakurai, that would be the only thing people are talking about on social media for like 3 hours. They may not even, like... That's the problem. It's like, that has such a power to it. And then people that don't have a Switch 2 be like, oh, well, if Smash is coming, I better get that before it's even pricier. And I don't love that, because, again, in this scenario, we would not be seeing Smash again until next June. I'm okay with that. If they do that, I'm okay with that. I'll probably be excited if they end up doing that. But that would absolutely be done because, yeah, like Nikki, like you mentioned, it's a desperate last resort because they're afraid of the console price increasing. That's why they would do something like that, I think. Every direct will have people disappointed. No Smash till it comes again. Yes, that is true. That it would lead to people being disappointed that Smash isn't in every single Nintendo Direct again. Simpson says you feel like Animal Crossing will be a lot sooner. I could see an Animal Crossing showing up in 2027. But I don't know. I don't feel like Animal Crossing would just get a CG teaser trailer. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I guess that is what they had before, though, when they first announced New Horizons. When they announced Isabelle for Smash, and then, like, Tom Nook appeared, and they were like, oh, a new Animal Crossing game's coming. Yes, yes. I guess they could. It's one of those three. It's one... If... My big, bold prediction is... At the end of the Direct, the very last thing, instead of being Ocarina of Time, is some sort of CG teaser trailer for something new. I don't know what. Because that just feels like what they would do for a June Direct of this caliber. Animal Crossing is a much bigger IP than it was before New Horizons. That's very true. New Horizons made that blow up to new heights, so going off precedent for that one might be tough. Yeah, you're right there. You're right. All right, let me get off this stupid CG trailer thing. And Taylor Play says, could we see Age of Imprisonment DLC? I know they had 2 free updates, but Age of Calamity got paid DLC after release. Age of Calamity's DLC was announced a few months after it released, though. We're now well over 6 months after Age of Imprisonment released and had its last updates. I kind of don't think it's getting DLC at this point, and I'm okay with that, personally. While it would be nice to play around with that game more, it feels like a complete experience, so I'm okay with no DLC for that game. Nikki says, I would think maybe a 3D Mario in the style of Super Mario 3D World. It can release soon, be a big game for families, and even show the game chat and game share capabilities. This also makes it so a bigger collectathon 3D Mario can take its time, now that we have a 3D platformer Mario and Bonanza. I would love to see a Super Mario 3D World 2, effectively. That would be fantastic, and could definitely show up before the big 3D Mario. That would probably be that might be one of my most excited, my most my most hyped announcements to come out of this Direct if something like that happens, Nikki. I don't think I've properly expressed how much I love Super Mario 3D World and that kind of multiplayer that it has. So something new like that would be huge. I hope so. That is officially in my big list of hopes, yes. Mario Tennis expansion to free DLC. This would be the time. If there is any sort of new content coming for Mario Tennis Fever, now would be a great time to announce it, and that might be the only way Mario Sports shows up here at all. If it doesn't show up here, I don't think it's happening. I think if it doesn't show up here, it's gonna be a little late to do anything else for it. I don't think there's paid DLC for Mario Tennis. I don't think any of it's paid DLC. I think it's free DLC and updates. But unlike Aces, Fever very much felt like a complete game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't anything. Have I mentioned Fire Emblem? Yes! I did mention early on when we were talking about things that we know. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I believe, is going to show up here, and I think it's coming out in August. Alright, we have been going for a bit here. So, is there any other big thoughts from folks in chat that you want me to hit upon here for the video? Any other, pipe dreams, big hopes, expectations, etc.? While I get folks typing and sending those, I will say, last year in September, my big, crazy pipe dream, what if this happened, prediction, was an Earthbound remake in the Claymation style. Do I see that happening or showing up here? Not with so many other remakes already happening and rumored. Do I still hope and think that can happen eventually? Yeah, I would love it. I think that'd be fantastic. Maybe not yet, though, at this point. Maybe not yet this time. Nikki hopes for Mario Maker 3. That would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool to get. We just had Mario Wonder Switch 2 Edition. I do feel like with the way Joy-Con mouse controls exist, it's time for a Mario Maker 3, and I think a Mario Maker 3 would be a lot better than a 2 Switch 2 Edition, but we'll see. And, you know, much better online. Or Yoshi's Woolly World, but that's not coming soon because of Mysterious Book. Yeah, Yoshi's Woolly World wouldn't be for a while. PK says, here's a wild prediction. Since Persona did it, you can see a tease for Splatoon 4. I'm not really sure why Persona doing it means Splatoon might. I think now is a bad time for Splatoon 4, personally, because we have Splatoon Raiders out in roughly a month, a little over a month, and I think that would take away from the first Splatoon spin-off that they're trying to focus on and give a lot of attention to. Because that's definitely going to be in the Treehouse. I think revealing Splatoon 4 would suck away some of the energy towards that, and I think would just get people looking at it as, well, that's just a spin-off. Where's Splatoon 4? Give me that. And I actually feel like it might have a negative effect. September Direct? September Direct after Splatoon Raiders has already come out? Sure. That's actually entirely possible at that point. Before Raiders comes out, I don't think it's wise. Nikki says maybe the rumored Kirby Planet Robobot port or remaster could get revealed. I could see that happening. We currently don't have anything Kirby for this year other than the Kirby Air Riders amiibo. It's definitely possible. Definitely possible. It would be a good way to kind of fill in having something Kirby this year. I think there's going to be 3 Nintendo Switch 2 editions for first-party games that show up here. I don't know what. We talked loosely about Mario Strikers Battle League. Switch Sports, Nintendo Switch Sports could be one. I don't know what they are, but I get this impression that Nintendo is looking to do more with the Switch 2 editions for at least the rest of this year. I don't really think we'll see them do many more Switch 2 editions into 2027 and onwards. I kind of hope they stop by then. But I definitely think we're going to see Maybe 3 is too ambitious. At least 2. At least 2 Switch 2 editions for first-party games. Nikki says Pikmin 4 Switch 2 edition guaranteed. That is one I could see showing up. I think that already had a free update for the Switch 2 though, so maybe not. Mario Party Superstars Switch 2 edition? No. I don't see them going back to Superstars for Switch 2 edition. They already did Jamboree TV. Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Jamboree TV. I don't see them going back even earlier for one. I think all their efforts are probably on the next Mario Party, and that's next year. So, going off the usual schedule at least, it would be next year. I had to say the full title because I hate the full title. I think there's going to be some other big third parties here also. Ones I haven't mentioned. I have no idea what, but I think there's going to be some more big third party announcements here that make people go, oh, okay, Nintendo got some good stuff going on with their third parties. Because I think that's big. Could we see a new themed Switch 2? Maybe not until September. That's tough to say. Because there's still only the one Switch 2 that exists. Like, just the normal default one. And then they have one other set of Joy-Con, and they're, like, subtly different colors. With Ocarina of Time remake very likely happening, that would be perfect. However, it would probably be an increased price bundle, but the economy makes it difficult for special edition Switches right now. Yeah, I do agree there. I could see special Joy-Con for Ocarina of Time. I don't know about a full console. It would be awesome. It would be awesome to see a whole new console edition for it. But I don't know if I see it. I do think we could see Joy-Con, because like Skyward Sword HD got special Joy-Con. And something about it feels fitting for the first Switch 2 Joy-Con that actually are well designed and not just a subtle color change to be tied to a Zelda release. I can see that. Alrighty, everybody. I think that's pretty much gonna wrap up this Nintendo Direct predictions. I, of course, will be live streaming my reaction to this Direct in the morning. I think it's gonna be a great time. We've talked for about an hour here. I'm confident it's gonna be good fun. The fact that it's nearly an hour long and then we have 95 minutes of Nintendo Treehouse Live afterwards, there's gonna be good stuff shown. Depending on how it all goes, you might see some analyses from me. I have probed around for freelance work though, so it's possible analyses from me may not be on my channel. I don't know. We'll see what's gonna happen. But it's gonna be a good time. I hope this does not become something that we only do once a year. I like doing direct predictions like this in my Discord and having the little side chat up here and recording it live with the Discord and my community, and then having the full video up for all of you on YouTube. So of course, once again, if you want to be part of this for future events and Nintendo Directs, make sure to subscribe and become a channel member on YouTube or a Twitch sub. You'll get access to the Discord server and you'll get to take part in this. I really do like this casual styled direct predictions. It's, you know, it's discussion style, but it's me discussing with you, the viewers. But alrighty, everybody. With that, that's going to close us out for today. I will see you for the stream tomorrow. And we'll see if any of these predictions end up being right. Not gonna lie, it's a little bit more fun and entertaining when none of them are right and it's completely unexpected. So we'll see how it goes. But with that, thank you, and I'll see you later. Special thanks to my channel members at the Co-Star Luma tier. Kiss My Flapjack, Game Explained, Cerulean Piplup, Swiftjar, Simpsons 703, Thales Caesar, and Super Aiden 03.